Okay, so in the 12:30 kickoff tomorrow, Wolves play Brentford, newly promoted Brentford, in what should be our easiest game in terms of on paper, a newly promoted side just come into the Premier League and at home. However, I don't think that'll be the case. I actually think this could be a bit of a banana skin for Wolves for a few reasons. And I'll go into some of Brentford's like stats and stuff in a minute because I do think they have some things that we haven't really faced yet. But if you look at the Premier League table based on expected points, which I know people hate, but we're like equal. We're fifth in the expected points table, whereas Brentford are sixth. So we've had very similar start to seasons in terms of the underlying numbers, albeit Brentford have had a much easier start on paper than we have, right? But the thing that kind of not worries me, but I'm interested to see is how we play against Brentford's back five, because we haven't actually played against a back five yet, or at least not off the top of my head anyway. I can't remember what Nottingham Forest played, but in the Premier League we haven't played against a back five yet. And this Brentford side, I'll go into their numbers in a minute, but they're very similar to Wolves. Do you remember when we moved Dendoncker into midfield and we had Jota and Jimenez up front? It feels very similar to that Wolves side. Very defensive, press from the front, pretty aerially dominant. And these are kind of the things that Brentford have, right? Obviously, their 11's pretty set bar this third midfielder position where they kind of keep changing it. I know Godos has played there a bit, but the wing backs get high. They press really well and they're really aerially dominant. And we haven't played against a back three yet. And that's something we struggled with under Nuno. And it does concern me a bit that Giammattino and Neves might not suit this game a bit. Like if Jan out Norgard, and I assume Nico will play, although I'm no Brentford expert, but that concerns me a little bit. Brentford have a lot of things going in their favour. In terms of aerial duels, for example, Brentford are pretty high, and this is maybe why I would maybe just because this is obviously Bruno Lage's preferred team, but I would consider bringing in maybe Dendoncker or Willy Bolly, someone that's a bit more aerially dominant, just to kind of match that a bit. I think Connor Cody or Roman Says, as good as they've been, you could drop one of them for Willy Bolly or even rest Giammattino for that Tottenham game. But that could be a little concern about Brentford. They are probably a bit bigger than us and they do win more aerial duels. That could be something to think about. And they're a really good pressing side as well. I think people are saying we're a good pressing side under Bruno Lage because it's a bit of like a trendy word, but we're not actually pressing that much, which I have no issue with. I think that's perfectly fine. But Brentford are a really high pressing side. They're up there with, Bielsa's Leeds and Hasenhüttl's Southampton, right? And that's what a lot of teams do that come into the Premier League. They'll play a back five and they'll press high. It gives you that good defensive base and kind of it forces mistakes, right? And Brian Mbeumo kind of off that right, it does worry me a bit. Playing against Marcel and Roman Sace aren't necessarily that quick. That could be a bit of an odd battle. I trust Ivan Toney to deal with. I trust Max Kilman to deal with Ivan Toney, although Max Kilman, as much as I do love him, he's not good in the air, considering his height as well. I think he averages like 1.9 aerial joules per 90. That's not good for a centre-back. But I think that's a bit of a concern. They press high. That's probably something we haven't really seen yet, us have to deal with. Nuno's Tottenham aren't that good at pressing. Solskjaer's United never really do it to a consistent level. And I haven't really looked at Watford's, to be honest. But Leicester's have been quite low this season as well. So we haven't really played against a pressing side this season yet, or someone as aerially dominant as Brentford, or a team that have played a back five. So I think we will learn some things about this Wolves side. And I think another good thing about them is David Raya as well. I kind of wanted to do this to pick up Jose Sarr as well, but we do have, us and Brentford do have two of the league's best goalkeepers so far. So I thought that was interesting as well. But there are some weaknesses to Brentford. They're not actually getting many shots away. The shots they are getting away are actually pretty high value, but they're down there with Watford and Leicester are surprisingly quite low. But if you compare that to Wolves, we're up there with some of the best. So it does feel like this will be a very much like when we first got promoted in Nuno and we played like some mid-table teams and they'd shoot a lot against us, but we'd get them on the break. It does kind of feel that like they're right there with Tottenham. It does kind of feel like it will be one of those games where Brentford will sit back a bit, but that when we are on the ball, they'll press us, especially from the front. But look, if Brentford are only having 9 shots on target and on target again they're the third lowest, they're only having 2 shots per 90 on target. We do have a good goalkeeper in Jersey, so I trust that we probably won't concede more than 1 this game, and I trust our attack to score more than 1. It'll be interesting to see if he rotates any of the front 3 as well. Personally, I wouldn't. I'd just trust Fabio Silva, Hwang Hee-chan and Podence to play in midweek. But it'd be interesting to see if he does that. Maybe Adama would be one you drop in this game, give Hwang a game, and maybe just save Adama for Tuesday, given how low Brentford will be. But I don't think Bruno Lage will do that. Again, with Brentford, they're not really doing many progressive passes, which, again, it's kind of similar to the shot stat, right? But they're probably missing that creative hub, right? That's probably what happens when you play with 2 forwards instead of 3 and play a back 5. But Brentford's attack doesn't scare me. The thing that just worries me about Brentford is that back 5. I feel like we could get Nuno'd, or if we make one mistake at the back because of how good they are pressing, it just concerns me this a bit. We've never played against a back 5, and Norgard, Onyeka, and Nyanel could outpress us a bit in midfield, and they are quite aerially dominant. And another thing about Brentford as well is they're not really a possession side, and to be fair, neither are we. But they're down there with like Nuno's Tottenham and Arsenal. It feels like this is one of those games that's already kind of mapped out, right? Wolves will hold the ball, we'll have loads of shots, and it just depends if we can get high quality shots. And Brentford, they'll press us, they'll try and win the midfield battle, and they'll be solid at the back. In my opinion, I think we'll win this game. I think we'll probably win it pretty comfortably, probably like 2-0 or 2-1 or whatever. But I think Brentford are an interesting side, and they've adapted to the Premier League a lot better than people would expect. And I don't think it'll be easy as this Watford game, personally. But yeah, that's all I have to say this game. I think we'll win it. I'm going to go 2-0. That's my preview for the game. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. There'll be a match reaction after the game. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and yeah, don't underestimate Brentford. Peace.